Well, I love it I love the way secrets hide in plain sight. Everyone will remember, I know you'll remember if you really think about this, you'll remember the Miracle on the Hudson. It was a couple years ago, a famous fellow who's famous now, and until that point had never been famous, was Captain Sully. And he took Cactus 5493, I think was the call sign, and his co-pilot was flying. They flew through a flock of geese coming out of LaGuardia, and they're climbing out, probably 250 knots is my guess. And boom, double engine flame out, which is the worst thing that can happen in a two-engine jet, believe me. And Captain Sully, immediately, I have the aircraft. You can actually listen to the voice recorder. I believe they have copies of the voice recorder. Calmly said, I have the aircraft checklist. And in this moment when most people would think it's sheer panic, there is no panic. Well, why? Well, because of the decision-making process, because of the system. A little later on, and I'm not talking about later on, meaning minutes, but I'm talking about seconds. The call goes back to LaGuardia, Cactus 5396 or whatever the number was. We've had a bird strike. We're returning to LaGuardia. Roger, Cactus, you're cleared to land, runway 25 or whatever runway it was. All the while, the calmness of the voice. No, we're unable LaGuardia. And the controller said to him, how about Teterboro? And Teterboro Tower immediately comes on and says, Cactus 5196, you're cleared to land, runway 27, Teterboro. And a pause, it's quiet. Now you realize in the cockpit, the co-pilot's going through the checklist, trying to do all the items to get the engines restarted. They're not restarting. A whole load of passengers in the back. You've got all these things you've got to get done, and we're talking about seconds. So the decisions are flying as fast as you can, even in milliseconds. They're just continually, let alone what Captain Sully has to do to keep the airplane on the correct course, the correct glide slope, et cetera, et cetera. And suddenly, after Teterboro, 5-6 seconds later, Captain Sully says, unable Teterboro, we're in the Hudson. Just like that. We're in the Hudson. So he picks an aim point, which all pilots are trained to do. He picks an airspeed, best glide speed. He picks exactly where he's going to try to land, the speed he's going to try to land at that'll give him the best rate of sink, meaning descent, so that he lands in the water at the best possible angle to keep everybody safe. And he does this in front of the world. Cameras are rolling. You've seen video of it. You've heard about it. And you watch this whole drama unfold and all this decision-making take place, and yet you experience the calmness of voice. Where does that come from? Well, that comes from training. Absolutely. That comes from practice. Absolutely. But that also comes from system. Step 1, step 2, step 3. A system, you see, is a series of laws, rules, and principles that are aligned to solve a problem. We have systems all around us. Captain Sully knew his systems. Well, guess what? So does every other jet pilot in the world knows how to ditch a jet. In fact, did you know that Captain Sully's airplane has a ditching switch? It's designed to ditch. It's actually designed, has a system to ditch. You close the switch, and all the small holes that are in the fuselage and the aircraft close so water won't rush into the airplane. They forgot to close the switch. They didn't get that far in the checklist. Now, lastly, I'll say this to you. Do you have any idea how many aircraft have ditched since the beginning of flight, and how many jets have ditched where every passenger. There's one example of ditching with a much larger jet than Captain Sully's where the passengers didn't even get their feet wet, and the aircraft flew again. That was a Japan Airlines DC-8 in San Francisco Bay in the late 1960s. So system, decision-making, correcting wrong decisions, all takes practice, but that's the key. All these different secrets are keys that will help you with your negotiations.